Hey, and we are live. Good morning. It is April 11th. It is a beautiful day in Plymouth, America's hometown. Good morning. I'm John F. Gately, your host. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I am really glad to announce to you, as you may have already heard, the pandemic is over. Notwithstanding what Joe Biden said to, what was it, Scott Pelley at CBS News back in September, now officially the pandemic is over. I know it took this long for it actually to happen. Oh, maybe I should plug that in there. Hold on a second. There we go. That's better. Uh, we'll wait for that to work. It's not working. There we go. That's better. Now we go. The pandemic is over. Can you believe it? I know. I mean, it only took, I don't know how many days it's been. It's been a lot of days, basically 3 years. 3 years. 3 years to bend the curve. Imagine if they told us that back in March of 2020. It's just going to take 3 years. But now, finally, the pandemic is over. Isn't that, which terminates the national emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Isn't that beautiful? That is such a nice thing, isn't it? It's finally over. What did we learn from the pandemic? Well, I think the number one thing that we learned is that originally most Americans, including me, were eager to comply with what the government told us was going to be a very serious pandemic. And that kind of tolerance for what we thought everyone was going to get sick and die, when that didn't happen, we were like, what's going on here? And the majority, I would say the majority of people, even after the facts proved out that this was not as big of a deal for the general populace as it had been pitched to us, the majority was still scared. People were very, very susceptible to saying, wow, I am scared. I am willing to give up my rights. I'm willing to give up your rights. I'm willing to put you in jail, for instance, if you want to practice your faith with your fellow parishioners. I'll do anything that I possibly can, put you in jail, socially ostracize you, whatever it is, in order to feed my fear. And that's a very scary thing. Very scary thing that we just experienced. We learned a lot about human nature, and it wasn't very pretty, was it? We as a country were very eager. Americans were very eager to throw the entire Bill of Rights like under the bus in order to satisfy our short-term fear. Now, starting and say like as soon as the summer of 2020, people started to realize, well, wait a second here. No, this is that. And that's when things were, at least some people started to wake up. I took a trip to Colorado in the summer of 2020, and it was a great trip. We went to Utah as well. And I started to observe something out there, and that was probably in June or July of 2020. I think it was June. I started to observe something out there that made me start to believe that things weren't on the level. And that was especially when I went to different towns. Like, for instance, I went to Crested Butte, which is a very expensive ski resort type of place, golf too. And everyone there was social signaling. They were all signaling that they were, masks, that whole thing. There was also a George Floyd protest, which was in downtown Crested Butte that day I was there. I was there a couple of days. But everything was masks. We want you to wear a mask. But then I went to Gunnison, which is about a half an hour south of there or so. And that's more like a regular town. And one store there asked me to wear a mask. It's kind of an upscale gift store, but nobody else did. And then I realized that this was a class thing. It was a class thing. It was a battle between classes and a battle to rage between we're more special than you are, and we're going to subjugate you and wear your masks, which even Dr. Fauci in the beginning of the pandemic told us that you didn't need, it didn't work, it was pointless, right? Uh, this was a really scary experience for those of us who value the fundamental rights that the country was founded upon. Right here in beautiful Plymouth. Literally, as I said yesterday, in my live stream, I'm broadcasting you from the first street in America, right here, high above Town Square in downtown Plymouth, Massachusetts. We just came through this amazing thing, which nobody wants to talk about anymore. By the way, did you notice that? Trump doesn't want to talk about it because basically it killed his presidency. The whole warp speed vaccine thing. I don't know if you know this, but the vaccine. Yeah, it's not really a vaccine either. When finally the CDC changed their definition of what a vaccine was, you knew that this was, yeah, when they changed the definition of what a vaccine is, you know they're up to something, right? And then, of course, they started to call this, everybody started to call this, it's a vaccine of the unvaccinated. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Remember that? Pandemic of the unvaccinated. But then they released their own numbers, and they would show that actually the majority of people that were getting the virus were vaccinated. Like, wait a second here. And then they stopped publishing that data here in Massachusetts. So funny how that works. I was a big Charlie Baker fan for a long time, going back to when he first ran for governor. What was that, 2010, I think it was. And then during this vaccine insanity, totally lost faith in him, especially once when he said that we had to wear a mask outside, even though he knew it didn't do any good, it would send a message. So at one point here in Massachusetts, you actually had to wear a mask outside, even if you were walking your dog all by yourself, alone, outside. Insane. And that was Charlie Baker's idea. He put it into place, and people did it. I was shocked how many people complied. I purposely went out on the little bike trail that we have here in downtown Plymouth and biked up and down the trail without a mask on purpose, just to say, bleep you. I had a little mask sign here. I don't know if you can see that, but that sign says, wear your mask. It was down by the harbor. We had a whole zone here in downtown Plymouth where you had to wear, even after the state lifted its outdoor mask thing, we in Plymouth had a mandatory downtown zone, must wear your mask. Insane. Who did that really hurt? It hurt working class people. It hurt working class people. It was theft from them. And now nobody wants to talk about it because it doesn't serve anybody's interest to talk about it. Certainly doesn't serve the Democratic Party, the far left, Dr. Fauci, nor does it serve a lot of Republicans either that were supposed to be on our side. It's amazing how quickly people cave when they're that fearful. And your civil rights are literally being held on a whim by your fellow Americans. Very, very, very scary. Everyone's saying, well, democracy is, the Democrats are saying democracy is under threat. Republicans are killing democracy. Oh, okay. Well, did you forget about the pandemic? What happened? All right. So everyone's talking today about how Whole Foods is closing their flagship store in San Francisco after only 1 year of opening. By the way, I went to Whole Foods about 2 weeks ago, and I had to order new eyeglasses, as you know. And oh my God, I cannot tell you how pretentious. This is like, I don't like the people that are in this store, not the employees, but the customers. I can't find anything. And then I went to go pay, and I couldn't pay I hated it. I literally put my basket down and walked out. It didn't buy anything. I said, I'm out of here. The people are nice enough that work there, but oh my God, the shops at Derby Street in Hingham, Massachusetts. Hingham is one of those places. When you think of Massachusetts, when you think of a elite Volvo driving, virtue signaling Massachusetts people, that's Hingham, Concord, places like that. Dover, Sherborne, where all the rich people live. Well, they would never want an affordable housing complex, right? No, that's Higham, right? They virtue signal left and right, unless somebody wants to put like an affordable housing complex in their neighborhood. They would never put up with that, ever. So too bad Whole Foods closing in downtown San Francisco because it's too dangerous. Wicked too dangerous. Of course, not that long ago, the Cash App founder, former chief technology officer at Square, passed away, stabbed in downtown San Francisco. Awful. 2:30 at night. Not a really explanation of why he was out at 2:30 at night. Not that you blame the victim. I mean, why can't you walk on the street at 2:30 at night? But yeah, you want to be extra careful. If nothing good happens at 2:30 in the morning. Just, that's the way it is. But awful, not his fault, obviously. And more example of how awful San Francisco is. If you Google Boston downtown crossing and hit news, you find that downtown Boston is as dangerous. There's an area of downtown Boston called Downtown Crossing, which historically is where all the shopping used to be. And now about 2/3 of Boston office workers are back at their jobs, which means that downtown Boston has lost 1/3 of its daily population to go to restaurants, to shop. It's not a ghost town, but it's depleted significantly. When you lose 1/3 of your downtown office workers, there's trouble. And it doesn't get as much attention as San Francisco, but Boston is effectively the San Francisco of the East, basically. And we've had any number of incidences of armed robberies and killings in this small little area of downtown Crossing, which is now dangerous to go to. The most recent was just 2 weeks ago, a Uber man out on St. Patrick's Day. I believe he was Irish American like myself. And here he gets stabbed at some 9 p.m. That at what would otherwise be a fairly well lit, busy location in downtown Crossing. Goes to the ATM. He's stabbed outside of the ATM. We haven't seen any video footage, and he dies. This is not that uncommon in our downtown Crossing area. It's just like San Francisco. But since we live in a media silo here, and because Boston is not as, how do I want to say this, as high profile as San Francisco, you don't hear about it as much, but it's there. And it's probably in many, many, many other cities across the country, Portland, you name it, it's out there. Cities are dangerous. Many cities. Now, there's a lot of places that aren't dangerous, of course. And maybe sometimes the danger's overblown for the ratings. I do feel that could be true. But there are just been so many horrific incidences that you really have to say to yourself, that's a trend. It's definitely a trend. Now, I just went to New York, and a lot of people in the comments, thank you very much, wish me safe travels and don't do anything that's going to put you in a position. And I would tell you that, once the sidewalks rolled up about 7, I only stayed one night, but once the sidewalks rolled up about 6:30 or 7, as the sun went down, I was like, I'm in the hotel room. I was tired anyways. But I would definitely at night take a lot of extra caution, especially in Manhattan or any major city nowadays. So let's bring it up for Tulsi Gabbard. She had a defense of women speech, and she did very well. Let's listen.
We just celebrated International Women's Day last week. I was scrolling through social media, seeing, what are people saying about it? And you saw a lot of nice flowery words coming from a lot of people in Washington, celebrating women and all the women have accomplished over the years, and all these great, inspiring examples of women leaders throughout our time. We know the hypocrisy there. You ask them what is a woman, and they can't answer the question. And one of the people they chose to honor in the White House on International Women's Day was not a woman at all. It was a biological male. There are two major points here. Number one is there is no greater expression of hatred and hostility towards women than to try to erase our existence as a category of people and to minimize us to being a construct of anyone's imagination.
Wow, she's pretty good, right? That's a great point.
And the second thing that doesn't get talked about often enough as we are looking at this insanity is that by rejecting the objective truth that there is such a thing as a woman, they are rejecting the existence of objective truth as a whole. And when we remove...
That's true, Chelsea. I mean, if you deny the existence of women, you're denying the existence of fact. And when you deny the existence of fact, well, that leaves things open for wild interpretation. Where do we go from here? Or where does the left go from there?
Those boundaries of what is actually true and false, not my truth or your truth or their truth or whatever it is, that there is such a thing as objective truth, then we remove all the boundaries of our society and we end up in a position, what we're seeing right now, where what is declared as true is based on whatever those in power say that it is.
Wow, that just sounds like exactly what we just talked about the pandemic, doesn't it? That just sounds exactly what we just talked about the pandemic. If we say there's a pandemic of the vaccine, well, that's what we said it is. Man, this thing here is the funniest thing I've seen on the internet in a little while, at least.
Hey guys, it's Taylor. It's day 6 of Girlhood, and look who I got, a new sponsor. Look at this cool Bud Light tower they sent me. Bud Light sent me so much cool stuff because they're so inclusive.
The slow-mo is fantastic.
Look at...
Oh, it just crashed. Hold on. Let's bring that up again.
Hey guys.
All right, here we go.
It's Taylor. It's day 6 of Girlhood, and look who I got, a new sponsor. Look at this cool Bud Light tower they sent me. Bud Light sent me so much cool stuff because they're so inclusive. Look at this Bud Light tank top. And I've obviously been drinking a lot of Bud. I also might be pregnant. Don't tell anyone. They also sent me this. Check this out. Ready? They sent me a Bud plug. Look at this.
All right, I can't take any more, but if you have not seen that whole Tyler Fisher thing, you want to take it. You want to watch the whole thing. It's very, very, very funny. Tyler Fisher on Twitter. It only has like 500,000 views, so it should get more. Go watch the whole thing. Country Star pulls Bud Light from Nashville bar amid Dylan Mulvaney partnership. They aren't ordering it. John Rich has removed Bud Light from his Nashville bar, Redneck Riviera. By the way, I've been to the Redneck Riviera. I did not know when I went in that it was owned by John Rich. I only learned that I was like there for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I figured it out when they handed me the menu. But 2 thumbs up. If you are in Nashville on Broadway, Redneck Riviera, 2 thumbs up. Very, very good and very nice people that work there, and they had excellent music. I tried to go back when I was at Nashville for the second time with my son, but you got to be 21 plus, and he was only 19 or 18 at the time, 18. So you got to be 21 plus. I was just wanted to take him for lunch, but yeah, so 21 plus, that's just how it is. But if you can go, definitely go. Redneck Riviera, they are now banning Bud Light at the Redneck Riviera. Way to go, John Rich. So moving on. Riley Gaines accuses Megan Rapinoe of virtue signaling over the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. So if you're not up to date on this, basically there's a executive order from the Biden administration pending that would reverse all of the states, and there's now something like 20 states that would that currently ban basically boys from playing girl sports. And there's 21 states that have done that so far. There is a Biden administration executive order that would nullify those bans. And I know, basically, they're trying to federalize the issue. Now, in the House of Representatives, controlled by Republicans nominally, right, there is a other bill. This would have to pass the Senate, which in my estimation would be very slim chance of passing the Senate, which would basically overturn that executive order. This is a huge battle that's happening right now in the background, especially the executive order by the Biden administration, which would nullify all of these state laws. This very dangerous situation. Riley Gaines, former NCAA star swimmer. By the way, the NCAA is now led by Massachusetts Republican Charlie Baker, who we learned is not very Republican when it comes to your rights, when it comes to scaring the bleep out of you, right? Accused Megan Rapinoe of virtue signaling as the soccer star and others have pushed back against the Women and Girls Protection in Sports Act, or whatever it's called. Gaines reacted to Rapinoe's tweet from March. The reaction also came on the same day Rapinoe and Sue Bird, who I think are a couple, signed an athlete ally letter to House lawmakers opposing the act. Today, politicians in D.C. are claiming to protect women's sports by pushing a trans and intersex sports ban. Intersex? I mean, I've heard that phrase. I don't even know what that means. Intersex? I'm clueless on that. It's something else that somebody made up, basically. Call your congressional rep and tell them blah, 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 blah. It's worth noting that you are done playing sports competitively. That's right. Like Megan Rapinoe is not a competitive sports star right now. She's basically just a marketing opportunity. Because you aren't sexually attracted to men, you will never have a daughter to defend. Ooh, that's harsh. Because, of course, they could adopt, and I think this tweet got deleted. To me, this simply looks like virtue signaling because you have nothing personally to lose. Thank you, Riley. Good point. Fox makes a correction. Technically, they could adopt, right? In respect to opinions that differ from my own, and everyone is entitled to think, speak independently, but can't help thinking that Megan Rapinoe would generally shiv any male who tried to take her spot on the U.S. women's team. Yeah, can you imagine if a guy showed up, if we could go back in time to whenever Megan was actually playing? How long ago was that? It wasn't that long ago. A couple of years ago. And we had a man, let's just say 25-year-old man who pretended that he was a woman and wanted to play on the women's national team. What would Megan Rapinoe do? And Riley Gaines suggested she'd shiv him. Yeah, like get the sharpened toothbrush, right? I don't want to encourage violence in any way, shape, or form. None, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, now she can say this now. Megan Rapinoe can say this now because her career is not threatened. Because she's safely ensconced. Right? She's not threatened by men playing in her sports league. But Riley Gaines is, and hundreds or thousands, maybe millions of women are nationwide. Their careers are threatened. Their scholarships are threatened because men are playing in women's sports. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's nice for Riley Gaines. It's nice for Megan Rapinoe to be able to say that for herself because it makes her feel better. But it's just not true. Abortion. Let's bring up the abortion topic because this is some very interesting news relative to the abortion topic. So just as a summary, we have these two court rulings that are diametrically opposed to one another. One is in Texas, and it is stayed until this Friday. And the other one is from, was it Washington? I think it's Washington or Oregon, both from federal judges. And they both say the exact opposite. One says the FDA has to take this abortion pill off the market, which is about 50% of all abortions, medical here in Massachusetts, at least, or prescription, I should say. And The other one says, no, the FDA can't do anything. So these are dueling court decisions. And here in Massachusetts, Governor Haley has announced an executive order for mifepristone. I'm just going to call it MIF, to stockpile it. Now, this has also been a situation that's happened in California. California has purchased 250,000 doses of MIF. I just don't understand that, because here in Massachusetts, through the University of Massachusetts, the governor has purchased 15,000 doses. They're basically stockpiling the drug. But if in the end the Texas ruling gets upheld, because it's going to go probably to the Fifth Circuit, somebody above these current federal judges is going to have to make a decision. And if the Texas side gets upheld, which probably won't be the case, I think, just looking at the track record, except for Dobbs, pro-life people tend to lose in the courts, just the way it is typically. But if the Texas judge gets upheld, then somehow these blue states plan to completely and absolutely ignore that decision. And this is what Governor Healy and Gavin Newsom in California have basically said. Here is the tweet from Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts. MIF is safe and effective. Not if you're the unborn child, it's not. It's been the gold standard for over 2 decades. We're keeping it available in Massachusetts no matter what some extremist Trump-appointed judge in Texas says. So he's a federal judge. And if his ruling gets upheld, which I'm just going to throw out again, I don't think it will, but if his ruling gets upheld, she's basically saying she's not going to adhere to it. What type of republic, what type of federal system do we have if that ruling gets upheld and this governor here says, we're not going to adhere to it, and here's how we're going to do it? She has a plan. They're buying it. So that way, if the FDA says you can't sell it anymore and it's stuck at the manufacturer's warehouse, she's already going to have a stack of it on hand here, 15,000 doses apparently, which is apparently almost a year's supply. So they're buying it and stockpiling it. So they're using government money through the University of Massachusetts to subvert what potentially could be a federal court ruling. And then they're going to issue an executive order from the governor's office. Governor Healy is issuing an executive order confirming protections for medication abortion, including MIF, under the existing law. It also directs state agencies to help colleges and universities expedite the implementation of their medication abortion and readiness plans. Trying to run a business here, So she's pledging to disregard, just like AOC said the other day, disregard a federal court order. Even if that gets upheld, which I don't think it will, but she's prepared to fully and absolutely positively disregard it. Now, the smart move is, of course, to wait until see what happens Friday, or to see what happens when the Fifth Circuit or whatever upper level court makes the judgment here. But our governor, as well as Gavin Newsom's governor, and I think, is it Inslee out on the West Coast there in Portland or Oregon, Washington State, their number of governors are doing the same thing. And they're planning basically to disregard the court ruling. Should it come to that, they're going to wait until the current decision. But this is when you start to see this type of blatant disregard, then you wonder yourself, like we talked about earlier in this show, who is destroying our democracy? Who is destroying our democracy? Who is destroying the rule of law? When a governor like Gavin Newsom or Maura Healey say yeah, even if that ruling goes against us, we're not going to abide by it. Even the president of Planned Parenthood said that the governors shouldn't do it. Even she said it just yesterday. She said, if we do that, then we're the ones that are destroying democracy. And they would be. All right. So from Plymouth, it's a beautiful day in America's hometown. I'm John F. Gately in Massachusetts. Have a great day.